I can provide by myself. I can produce by myself. I can procreate by myself. I actually really don't need you.
Producing, providing, procreating. These elements of being a man, being a husband, that when you tick those boxes, we feel entitled.
Recognition is an important thing, but the neediness for recognition is not very sexy.
You are infinitely bigger than these conditioned typesets or archetypal roles that society has said, hey, just do those and that's it.
Desire that we have to, as wives, to bring you out of that box, it's not because of a personal attack or a criticism. It's actually a wanting the fullness of what you can bring.
So welcome into the He Wants, She Wants Marriage podcast. In this episode, we're talking about the 3 huge lies that husbands have been told about married life. Every husband in Western society, since he was born, has been bombarded with these lies by this profoundly sick society. And as a result of these lies that he has been told, his current today form shows up in marriage, like myself, like every other guy out there. And these lies create beliefs in us that turn us against our wives, and as a result, our wives turn against us. And the 3 lies are that the beginning, middle, and end of the purpose of a man showing up in marriage is he must produce, he must provide, and he must procreate. And by God, these beliefs, these lies have caused so much pain and suffering for us in marriage.
Yes, they have. Before I go into my answer, I just want to say that I have a cold. So if my voice sounds weird, or if you hear me coughing or not talking much today, that's the reason why.
You're doing the Phoebe Buffet from Friends.
Yes, yes.
With the sexy voice.
I think I sound extremely sexy. I feel like crap, but but let's go with the sounding sexy. Yeah. Well, like literally just this morning, we had a moment where going through me being sick, you've had your own things going on with your own health the last couple of weeks. We've been busy. We had fallen into that. I felt a disconnection. I felt alone from the emotional side of the relationship, not completely alone. And you were like, well, but I have been doing all of these things, which if we summarize them, we're like, you've been producing, you've been providing, and procreating. What we've done it years ago, but we can say slash parenting, like you've been showing up as a dad. So those things were, yes, being done, but there's still like something that was missing and that we had to have a small conversation about. So
Yeah.
that happens.
And when you brought that to me this morning, it's the irony of all irony. Like, it's for people at home, we might mention this, but doing these episodes, it happens so often that when we're writing an episode, that conflict comes to the surface, that shadow comes to the surface, in the few days leading up to it. I could feel it myself this morning. There was a part of me rationally going with my practice. You're not attacking that part. You actually even spoke to it. Mark, I get that you've been showing up and I get these things. So you even acknowledged it. And then you spoke to the connection wasn't there. I wasn't touching you like I normally did. And you referred to when your dad was here, I was pretty damn exceptional with that. And it was so meaningful. It's like I've been hard. And I could just feel my nervous system going, and like that part of me, that conditioned part just wanted to blurt out, have you even realized how much I've been doing? It's like with the major toothache I've had, you've been sick, the girls have been sick, and possibly part valid. And we ended up having a lovely, clear the air, 20-minute conversation and everything was fine. But I could feel that conditioning in me building up a head of steam. And it's only through my practice and the practice we have that knowing that rationalize righteous, Mark, internally, that part is wanting to get very righteous here. It's wanting to argue. We took it to the road. We did our king and queen walk, and I owned the righteous part, and we got in back into flow. And hey, within a few minutes, we were actually really back connected. But that conditioning was very live in my nervous system.
Mm.
Producing, providing, procreating. These elements of being a man, being a husband, that when you tick those boxes, there's this element from men as a result of that conditioning. We feel entitled.
Mm.
And we look back as men and we go, well, the procreating, hey, having sex, if you're doing anything in your sex life, and then procreating slash parenting, it's sort of in the same vein of things. So many men are doing way better than what our dads did before us in the producing and the providing. Well, the producing at work, we're ticking that box, and I think our dads probably tick that box. But you know, providing at home, providing support in parenting, providing support a bit in and about around the house. Probably most guys listening in are doing a better job than their dads did before in marriage, in their upbringing. So there's this real sense in men in modern marriages getting bewildered, going, I'm doing way more than what my predecessor did, like what my dad, what my lineage did, and you're still not happy.
No, we're not.
No, you're not. Lord darn it.
We're not. Because, yeah, that's not enough. But it makes sense what I'm feeling. And apart from being sick, another reason why we were like, well, I probably will talk less this episode is because I'm not a husband. And that is not my experience. And I really want to honor that that's your lived experience. But what it seems by listening to it and by having witnessed it is that on top, like that entitlement that kind of comes up in a conversation like the one this morning, although we did it pretty consciously, that wasn't too bad, but it can come out messy. It can come out very messy. But that's feels like it's the result of the massive amount of pressure that happens internally when you're feeling like you are the only one and that's your task, that you have this conditioning that you have to produce, provide, and procreate slash practical parenting. That's all heaped on you. It feels like a lot. And I know we're going to do an episode on the conditioning that women have and wives have received. So I know for me, when I think about that conditioning, which we're not going to spoil today, you'll have to listen to the next episode. But there is actually a massive internal pressure because of that conditioning. So I'm feeling that maybe like you can of course speak to that, but
Yeah, well, there is. That's what conditioning does. Shadow work and this profoundly sick society tells us who we should be
mm,
and who we should not be. And that is a pressure. There's a literal, well, not a literal, but a metaphorical prison in our nervous system going, stay inside that container. That's who you're meant to be as a man. It's like, I think of, I've spoken to these before, but they're just the really essential cultural markers of where society is at with these conditioning. If you go to one of the most popular comedies in the 1980s, it was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I think by John Candy and Steve Martin. Anybody in North America probably knows that. It's one of the classic comedies, and Steve Martin's character in it, through absolutely hilarious happenstance and chaos and craziness, he's meant to come home from his corporate job in the city to come back on time for Thanksgiving or Christmas with his wife and kids at home. And he ends up being 3 or 4 days, and he, through all terrible different things that happen to him and the other character, he can't come home. But at the end of 90 minutes for an entire film, so it's 4 days of the movie of his life being hell, he finally makes it home. And it's the first time he has spoken to his wife. And there is the part of the feminine conditioning, again, part two, and we could bring up the same film for it. But that film really typifies. The man showed up on the doorstep going, sort of expecting forgiveness. Because why? The poor bastard was away at work. He was, producing for the company, thus providing for the family. So he shows up at Christmas, family are there, kids are there. He hasn't made any contact at all for 4 days. And there's this sort of, he didn't come in the door groveling like with a full expectation, I am screwed. Like it was actually, you laughed at the time when we had that movie. Is
I
like,
remember
oh,
that.
the major thing there, Mark, is his key worked. He actually got in the door. I'd have had the locks changed.
Yeah, true, true. That's true.
So if you remember that film, guys listening in, and even if you don't, it's really typical of the social conditioning. The man was the hero of the story because he was beset upon so many problems, and he wanted to get home, of course, but he was at work. He was should have been instantly forgiven for all the problems because he was at work and he providing and producing and doing all of those. So that was just a key thing. And there's other movies more recent years, and they just keep all pointing at the same thing, that the man does the heroic thing, goes out, produces for his company or somebody else's company, and thus provides at home and procreates, minds the children in any way, shape, or form. Job done. And yet it just is not, it's not enough. What I'd like to speak to husbands here is, it can't be a prison. It's not that those aspects of your being as a man aren't important. They're damn important. Because, hey, and I'm quite sure some wives listening in are like, well, you might send in a message in the comments and in certain platforms and go, hey, my husband isn't even ticking those boxes. It can and does happen, but they are important roles. Producing for your business, producing for a company, for a business that you work for, or an organization. Hey, that's legacy, that's service. We hope that you're earning your money, producing and being of service to humanity, to your community. That's damn important. The providing for your family, it's, you go back millennia, there's a deep masculine part that is of high worth and value and is worthy to be honored. And the procreation, well, there's many different episodes could be done in that about the how it's locked in on just a really minuscule, highly limited view of sexuality, which is another major issue for men. Those roles, those purposes are really honorable. They're worthy of honoring. Where the problem comes in marriage is when you're caught in a prison and you feel you have the whole job done, that just those by themselves in isolation, you job done, husband. I've been a great husband, great dad. Why the hell, woman, are you still giving me shit? I feel it's, and now you feel you're being lumped with a whole heap of unfair baggage on top of it. Like my nervous system this morning. With practice, I could get to righteousness and go, God, I just need to go on a walk with you and soften into this hardness that was coming up, this voice, and I shared to it. So they are worthy of honoring, but they're not even 5 or 10% of your entire power as a man. That is the real great message I have for men. You are infinitely bigger than these conditioned typesets or archetypal roles that society has said, hey, just do those and that's it. It really boxes in your power. And what your queen is really wanting from you, and I see you're nodding your head as like immediately, what your queen, what her whole existence within marriage, in a way, one of the greatest gifts that a queen brings a man in marriage is, she's like, a woman's entire being in marriage is evoking and initiating a man's entire power so into full embodied glory. Does that hit home for you from a wife's perspective?
It does, because there is a knowing that that's not only that's not enough, but those three things by themselves, and the meaning that we give to those three things is also very narrow, because as you said, producing means producing a work, providing means, well, I'm providing you with a home and a car and a thing, like it's actually a really small meaning that we give to those things.
Mm.
So it's a So it's not enough, but it's a cage. It's like there's so much more to you. I mean, if I thought that that's all you were, if I wanted, I mean, I could get a friggin' robot to do the same things. Like, I don't need a
Mm.
husband to provide and produce. And actually, now more than ever, I really don't need a husband. I can provide by myself. I can produce by myself. I can procreate by myself. I actually really don't need you. But what I really need as a wife, it's like the richness that you can bring to the relationship, the emotional connection. No bloody AI is ever going to give you that. So like th- that is what we're calling out when we're giving feedback, when we're saying maybe sometimes skillfully and sometimes not so skillfully, but when we're saying, dude, I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling sad. I want to throw a shoe at you because you've passed me 10 times and you haven't even stopped to make eye contact for a minute. I know you're on mission. I know you're doing your things, but you're not with me.
Mm.
And that richness is what we're calling out for. So actually, yes, that's bringing what that entity of marriage is, because otherwise it becomes like a sterile business partnership. Now I know in my family they do refer as to marriage as a contract. Ultimately, you sign a piece of paper so that your money is sorted, and which is I never really felt it that way. So, but that's what we're bringing with the feedback.
Mm. It goes beyond that imprisonment with those beliefs has us so limited. And that's what, for guys listening in, like, I get it. I got it this morning. I've got it hundreds of times, if not every single time. There's some part of me that is resisting your feedback, is resisting the mere suggestion you're upset. Well, that means I'm failing in some part. It doesn't mean that. You have human needs, and I don't. I think it's an oversimplification, but it's a nice one for guys that the three sacred feminine needs are to feel seen, heard, and safe. It's a damn good starting place. It's a good foundational starting place, and in fact, that's what brought the experience around this morning. That realization, my righteous part going, yeah, but no, just, but what you say, then you're not. Then is like, okay, just shut the fuck up, dude. Just be quiet. You were looking to feel seen, heard, and safe. And in fact, within, I think, your first couple of sentences, when I got curious about, hey, emotionally, what are you experiencing? I think I started with, it seems like you're feeling, but within a couple of moments, when your human experience became apparent to me, my whole nervous system was like, well, that's okay. You're having a human experience. Um, so that ended well. But it's not ending really well in marriage in a lot of houses.
No.
So let's talk specifically. We're already getting a flow of conversation going on. Well, what's the solution?
Mm.
I think, and we need to speak to what's the solution if there's a wife listening in. Hopefully, there's husbands and wives listening in. Invite your partner in on the conversation. But let's speak about what's the solution for wives and what's the solution if a husband is listening in? What would you lead with in a deepening of what you've already led with? Uh, for wives listening in, what can they take on and go, okay, well, here's part of my solution when I now know these things that have been conditioned so deeply into my husband's nervous system. What's the solution for wives?
Well, there's two things actually that come up, and I think one we didn't write it in the script, but it's the first one is express. It's actually say what it is, because it's like we do a lot of internalizing of all of these sensations and all of these feelings. And so expressing and saying, my love, I'm feeling sad because I don't feel we've been connected for a while, or I'm feeling that there's something missing, even if you don't know exactly what it is, even if you don't have a clarity and it can come out a little messy. The encouragement is to express it, but balance it with keeping a perspective on the fact that this is the conditioning and that there are things to recognize in your husband of the stuff that he is doing. we spoke to it before, that recognition is so important. So it's like, yeah, I'm feeling sad and lonely in this period, but I actually do see that you are doing all of this and you're doing all of that. And so it's not a complaint about you as a person. We touched on it on the criticism episode. It's not a complaint about you as a person. It's not a personal attack. It's actually just, I'm bringing to the light an element of our relationship that at this moment is not actually fulfilling for me. It's not working. There's something that we can improve together. So I think that's the balance. Speak it, because we can fall into too much recognition, as in, he's doing so great. He's actually doing all these things. And this is just me complaining again. That might not be the full truth. So both things for me this morning were important, because I can go very much into wanting to recognize and then silence aspects of what I'm feeling. Or I can go into the other extreme where I'm so absorbed into what I'm feeling that I actually forget all perspective as to what you're actually doing. And neither is going to work. So I think that's what I see for wives. And it takes a little bit of skill and trial and error. We don't do it perfectly, but just the balance between what's your truth, what you want to bring to it, and the recognition of your husband.
Yeah. The speaking what's happening in your human experience without the loaded I'm feeling lonely because you haven't touched me at all, blah 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 blah. When the human feeling is attached to some pointing and poking of what the guy has not been doing. What naturally is going to happen is his mind is going to go, yeah, but you're not recognizing all the things I have done. So what I'm really hearing is the medicine in what you're saying is you own your emotional experience. And again, this morning when you did that, boom, I was like, oh, it's loneliness. And there was no follow on of what I was not doing. You spoke that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My nervous system could receive it because there was no poking at what I was not doing. That would bring on God, but I'm doing so many things that you're not recognizing. And in fact, the follow up, what you're saying is recognize
Mm-hmm.
what he's doing explicitly, knowing whether your perspective is you agree with that or not. And this is where, that rationalized righteousness is the greatest enemy in relating. Being right, do you want to be right or be connected? It's sort of, the husband perspective. You know, we have been conditioned to believe that emotions are wrong. It's like the husband respect, oh God, she just gets emotional again. Well, openness both sides, producing and providing and those things, they are of deep importance. So when you explicitly recognize them, it's real nourishment for your husband, real nourishment, and it will help him actually ground with you and connect. So there's a solution for the powerful wives. For the guys, I- I'm going to lead with in your honoring of those being important, it is perfectly okay if your queen is feeling really deeply upset and whatever, and she has not made any mention of the things you've done or there's zero recognition. It is okay to go, hey, babe, I'd love to be recognized for what I actually have been doing. And I would put a flame under your asses, guys. Make sure that you've been showing. This is where integrity comes in. It really helps your case if you have been showing up with high integrity. A lot of the times I hear guys battle back with, oh, they want recognition. The only reason they're wanting recognition is they're trying to avoid the pressure of taking responsibility. And your game was not so shit hot to be recognized on in the first place. So there's quite a bit going on, and I bring that masculine challenge to you guys. But you can ask, hey, I would like to be recognized in this for what I have done. That is a part. And it is also true. This is where the direct masculine challenge goes out to you guys. Those boxes they're the entry ticket price into being a husband. To be a husband, and most of you are listening in are dads, That's the highest honoring. That's like the highest experience of embodying leadership as a man. I passionately believe is the honor in having the role of being recognized as a husband and as a dad. You're the leader of a family unit. You're the masculine leader. Clearly, there's two leaders, but as the guy in the relationship, you're a leader. That's a massive, massive honor. If you don't think it's an honor, you just wait till your wife, plonks the divorce papers, and you'll feel the tears coming over and the sadness and the grief. You'll all of a sudden realize the massive honor it was. Or if you get the dreadful knock on the door of the police saying, "I'm sorry, there's bad news. Your wife has been in a crash," etc., etc. It's important to bring these up. We, as men, in those moments, remember just how wonderful an opportunity it is to be a husband in the first place and to have a beautiful queen actually show up and be willing to bring feedback, etc. So that's my direct challenge to you guys is get some fucking perspective. Yes, there is a conditioning. Yes, we've all grown up in a profoundly sick society, but it is our job individually and collectively as men to really transcend these limitations that were put on us and go, we have so much more to bring as husbands, to bring as dads, to bring the family home. And those 3 points, albeit sacred, they're less than 5 or 10% of the fullness of love and consciousness and power and presence and discipline. And I think there are just so many masculine qualities that when you start tapping into that full power, man, like now you're going to be enjoying life and leadership and showing up in your family home way more. But you've got to look at that box of those 3 lies and go, hey, that was like an incredibly painful box to be put in, but I'm going to burn down the prison bars and actually free up my full heart and soul so I can be fully here in this house, home, and relationship.
Yeah.
Anything else your divine feminine soul would like to add to this?
No, I think that's it. I think it's I love that you put the fire under the husband's ass
Mm,
because, yes, recognition is an important thing, but the neediness for recognition is not very sexy,
mm,
especially when it's not backed up. And I do know that that's something that can create a lot of conflict. And it can be a way to avoid feedback, which doesn't help. And I know the wives could be like, "Eh." When we've seen that. But yeah, there is so much more. I think that's the thing, the desire that we have to as wives to bring you out of that box. It's not because of a personal attack or a criticism. It's actually a wanting the fullness of
mm.
what you can bring. It's really that. It's wanting to bring that out because we see that potential and we know that that's there. And also because we deserve it.
Hell yeah.
Oh, we deserve it too, so
This has been awesome, baby. Thank you for playing poorly well, bringing it all. To those of you listening in, well, we've been saying invite your partner in on it. At this point, like a massive support to the podcast is to click follow.
yeah.
Follow or subscribe, depending on the platform that you're on. Like click that, get it regularly coming into your platform. And until the next time, dare to go get what you want in married life.
Bye.
Bye guys.